Stan Haywood, or Stan the Stand Haywood, as I'm now going to call him. Stan is that very nice fellow with the moustache who's given a couple of talks here before now and shown his work. He obviously a long-term collaborator of Bob Godfrey's, and he gave me an old animation stand. He's got about 4 of them, which I have in a little office. And Bunny heard about this stand from through Suzanne. Yes.
I asked Suzanne about stands, and she put me in touch with Stan, who then said he'd just sold you a stand.
Won't just sell it to me, he actually just gave it to me.
You, yeah.
Stand for a children's animation workshop you were doing. So that's how we met. So so thanks to Stan. And Bunny showed me a selection of her work. Bunny used to work at Slinky Pictures.
Yeah.
You originally studied sculpture.
Originally I studied
at Liverpool Polytechnic.
Yeah.
Then subsequently you did animation at the Royal College of Art. You a long-term director at Slinky Pictures.
Movie shorts and then Slinky Pictures.
Oh right.
Yeah.
And you made a very famous film called World of Interiors.
Yes.
BAFTA nominated, screened on Channel 4 as part of something called the Animated Residency.
Yes, at Momi.
At Momi.
When Momi existed on South Bank.
For those of the younger members of the audience, if you on either side of Waterloo Bridge, sticking out of the National Film Theatre, these 2 bits of roof with funny kind of blisters along the top, and this is the last surviving fragment of what was the Museum of the Moving Image, which was
on the floor in the bar.
Oh, okay.
You know, Bonugos.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Their floor used to have a Dalek on it.
Oh.
It used to be like a big mop TV. Yeah, get the floor for Mommy.
Oh, okay.
I know enough. I went there every weekend as a kid, I think.
It was great. It was really wonderful.
I probably saw you in there.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Well, there was just such a greenhouse in the middle, wasn't there?
You had to be in this sort of glass-fronted booth. Does anybody know it? Does anyone know? Yeah, so you sort of had to be in this booth doing your sort of pilot for a film that you then proposed to Channel 4. So you were sort of animated in residence in the museum and for 3 months. And people came and sort of peered in at you. And every time you drop the rubber, they all kind of sort of like, you couldn't really eat in there.
But
it was fine though.
It didn't scar you for life then?
No, it was lovely actually. It was a luxury to be in there, you know, being paid and making some work. And I used to stay really late at night, sort of midnight quite often, and wander around the museum very late. It was lovely.
Great. And I mean, seeing all these, I did visit when there were animators there, and you're kind of in a cage. I kind of imagined a zookeeper to come along at feeding time.
It was like, yeah, you definitely felt like that, especially anything you dropped, you rushed to the window.
Yeah.
What's it doing?
It does
You're
require.
always trying to sort of move around. You know, should you be visible to people or not visible? You know, kind of trying not to be distracted by people. People hardly ever came in actually. They kind
That's
of
really
rattle
sad.
the door occasionally.
What sort of, half come in and go, oh, sorry, or what?
No, they just didn't. I mean, I was there sort of over Easter, and there were loads of school kids and people, loads of people coming round, but no, hardly anybody ever kind of ventured in.
Oh, it's a shame. It's a shame. But it must be kind of odd for an audience watching an animator, because one of the things we've established that animation takes quite a long time. So I can imagine if it was live action filmmakers, people could sort of take it in a bit quicker, but they have to do quite a lot of peering, I think.
Yes.
And that film went on to be BAFTA nominated.
Well, I made the pilot in there, and I sort of worked with an assistant in there some of the time.
Right.
And then you sort of finish off the pilot. Well, you kind of put it together and add sound and everything later, and then you have to present it to Channel 4 with a kind of slightly more finished proposal and a budget. And then they nearly always got commissioned, which was brilliant.
I didn't realise that, because I assumed that you were working on the finished thing, but to actually it was research and development.
Pilot, there's no guarantee of it actually getting commissioned by Channel 4. They sort of pay you a fee to work on the pilot for 3 months, and then and then you present it to them again, and then they decide later.
But it does mean that they're prepared to write off several £1,000s for research and development for a
Yeah.
project, which is quite enlightened,
Yes,
really.
but I don't think many were turned down. I mean, I think, you know, because they work very closely with you, working with Channel 4 and with the producer, and they're all kind of, you know, they sort of, it's quite hard to get onto the scheme at the beginning. I mean, I think I tried 3 times.
Yeah, yeah.
Or something.
Was it off the back that you joined Bermuda Shorts and thinking, or were you already with them?
I was already at Bermuda Shorts when I was working on my proposal, so I was already there straight from Royal College.
Oh, right. Oh, well
Bermuda
done.
Shorts. But, and then I sort of worked on the proposal, but then I didn't really want them to produce it because I just wanted to work with a sort of one-off producer. I decided once I got the commission, I didn't really want to sort of work with a big animation company.
No, I see.
So I just wanted to have more control, and I just thought working with a single producer would just be a bit better. So I worked with Chris Shepherd.
Right, right.
It was a bit of an odd situation because he was also a director at Bermuda Shorts at the time, but he was also a producer.
Yeah.
And he had made a Momi film and produced it himself. And he was also the producer of the scheme, and he suggested it because but it was an odd situation.
Yeah.
He said, well, would you like me to produce it? Because I sort of told him I didn't want Bermuda Shorts to produce it, even though I was based there. So that was a bit difficult, but I was determined not to let them because I just didn't feel comfortable.
Well, you want it to be your film and not...
Also, I knew Chris quite well, and, you know, I felt comfortable with him, and I thought I'll be able to sort of ring him up and ask him things more easily, and also keep an eye on the budget, and I sort of wanted to just have everything a bit more visible and not disappearing off into this company
Oh,
where
right,
I couldn't,
okay.
you know, ask the questions I wanted to ask. I just wouldn't have felt comfortable.
You definitely made the right decision.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was very good. He was really good. He was always there if you needed to ask him stuff.
Now, another of the reasons I wanted you to come along and show your work was bringing us sort of bang up to date your film Timeline, which is in a very, very different style to World of Interiors, The World of Interiors, and was funded in a, as I put it, in a very enterprising way. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Well, it was a commission I heard about. I mean, it was actually general commission on the Arts Council website was offered. It was to make a piece of work. It didn't have to be a film, but they were just offering a fund, some money to make a piece of work for the Kentish Town Health Centre. And the Kentish Town Health Centre had been all done up. You know, it used to be just this kind of, well, not small, but it was a kind of slightly run-down doctor's surgery. And then it had lottery funding or whatever, and it took 3 or 4 years, and they did it up, made it huge and all state-of-the-art-ish, you know, with big, huge atrium and everything now. Anyway, and as sort of part of it, there's a charity. Well, I found out from the arts lady today sort of how it works, but there's something called the Kentish Town Improvement Fund, which was started.
Can it be improved? Can you top Kentish Town?
By a one-off donation, sort of from a private donator started the fund, and then the fund people applied for Arts Council money. So it was sort of like half funded by the Arts Council and half funded by the Kentish Town Improvement Fund. So, but it was put out generally on the Arts Council website. So I applied with another woman who was a photographer who I'd been working with, and we decided we really wanted to collaborate and do something together, you know, which was a mixture of animation and photography. So we put in a proposal together, and we got the thing to make this film, which was the idea was that it was 24 hours on Kentish Town Road. So it was a walk from Camden Tube to Kentish Town Tube, up the whole of the high street, all in single frame photos, with a tripod on wheels. not over one day, but we sort of worked it all out so that I did this very long map. I should have brought it. Anyway, I tried to sort of work it out almost sort of scientifically, because we realised it was a mile long, almost exactly a mile long, and quite like the idea of it being a 12-minute film, but 24 hours sort of on the high street, and all, you know, the way animators like the numbers.
24 or 25 frames a second and all that stuff, yeah.
So I sort of worked it out almost frame for frame. Well, I tried to over the sort of time and everything, and then I even got a stick, increments on a stick. We tried to sort of walk along.
Did you have a stripe on the wheel of the tripod to count the revolution? Oh,
the
God.
tests we did, which we're trying to be very accurate,
Yeah.
it just looked all wrong. I mean, the movie, it was much too slow, and it just looked wiggly, and you know, because you couldn't get the flow if you're walking along looking at a stick and stopping every time.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like, oh God, and then the next shot. So we did loads and loads of tests, probably too many tests, but and then finally we just realised that the best thing to do was just push it along just with ordinary footstep, just a single normal kind of footstep was about right.
Right.
And then it took me ages to kind of work out, because Magda Siegel, who I worked with, she's a very good photographer, portrait photographer,
Yeah.
really mainly, but she's very fussy about, so she set up all of the kind of look of it, and she set up the exposures and most of the composition. It took us ages to work out how we move it along without kind of doing that the whole time, making me feel sick. And eventually I realised it was just you had to follow the kind of central point on the pavement rather than things at the side. I kept trying to sort of follow things at the side,
Oh, I see.
buildings, and then I'd suddenly do that or that, you know, and you just couldn't. Then I realised I just had to try and follow the lines on the pavement and line them up in the thing in the camera. So I did it by looking through each time and lining up the lines with the line on the pavement just as much as possible, because then you got less side-to-side movement. Anyway.
This all intrigued me a lot when I first met Bunny, and she showed me some of her work, because World of Interiors, in a way, the circumstances for making it, for me, sound like an ideal world of funding. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't like that at all, but this
really.
is mythical, bygone age when there was Channel 4 arts funding.
Because I made it all by hand. I mean, the World of Interiors was completely hand-drawn, hand-painted, you know, shot on film. Edited on film.
Days.
I know, and I knew I'd never be able to get that sort of funding again, so I thought, I'd definitely make it by hand.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all over, sadly. That's how we would like the world to be now. But I thought the timeline example, I thought was, well, a radically different technology, using digital stills camera, using the world around you, and interestingly enough, funded by my local GP. It was actually the James Wigg practice where I was. This is long ago when I lived in Kentish Town. It was my local GP, so that was a kind of a nice coincidence. But also finding something from the Arts Council website, which turns into an actual tangible commission, and also is, if you like, also funded by effectively a local business or a local sort of organisation, which is, I think, the way we all have to be looking now, and sort of think, I hate the phrase, think laterally or whatever, but you know, it's a constant problem. And of course, in the meantime, you did a lot of commercials and other films. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of other stuff, but obviously it's, you know, there's a limitation of time. But what I thought we'd do is we'd show the World of Interiors and then Timeline, and then see how we go and maybe show a little bit more work. And then if anyone wants to ask questions, that's fine. Before we start, how are we for temperature in here? Is this about right or too hot? Okay, Magnus, do you mind flipping that window up? You might need to